Trading is the best way to get all the items you need in Astroneer, but it can also be a pain and take way too long. So that's why you'll want to automate your trade platforms. Quickly, here are the items you'll need. A trade platform, obviously, auto arms, a storage sensor, a count repeater, and some other basic items like medium platforms and storages. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's build an automated trade platform together. So I basically have everything that we need behind me here, and we'll go step by step. So we'll go from the scrap all the way to the resource we are trying to get, and this will all be automated. First, I have a platform here for the scrap, so I'll just leave this on like that. Make sure everything is connected to power, and then disconnect it until you are done building this. You don't want to accidentally start something up. After you've got some scrap on your first platform, and this could be anything. It could be a storage full of scrap, or it could be your shredder right here that delivers the scrap straight into the next thing. You can do whatever you want, you just need scrap on this side. Then you're gonna have an auto arm, and this auto arm will take the scrap. So that's why I have a scrap right here to put in the selector slot. You do not want to grab anything else because it will mess up the entire trade platform. So make sure you've got scrap in here. It's really important. Then just connect the platforms between them. The next platform is going to be empty. And you can see I'm just using these small ones. You don't want to overcomplicate this at all. And then I've got a storage sensor. You can get this really easy, it doesn't cost a lot of bytes to unlock, and it's also pretty cheap to craft. So just place that on the platform, make sure it's on the platform, and you can cycle through these modes. So it has multiple modes, but what you want is full or empty. That's the default mode it comes in. Just make sure both of these green arrows are on. You don't want one arrow or the other. You want both arrows to be on. That's the most important thing here. So this should just be on this middle platform. And then the other one will have yet another auto arm, which should just reach in here. And because we are still moving scrap, I'll place a scrap in the selector slot of this auto arm too. Also make sure that the auto arms can reach into the platforms. And they do, so let's go on to the next thing. Now, a very important thing you would probably forget at the beginning of this. You need one extra scrap. And the reason you need this is to put it right here. Before you start anything, before you connect it to power, before you do anything else, just put one scrap on this auto arm. It needs to have it, otherwise the first time you send the trade platform, it will not have enough scrap. So this is how it all counts up with one extra on here. Okay, now that that's done, it's time to place your trade platform on another platform. I'm just using a large platform A. You don't necessarily need a specific platform. You can also just place it on the ground if you feel like it. I just don't want it to glitch or anything, so it's safer if it's on a platform. And then you also have to make sure that the auto arms can reach all of the slots on here, so it can put scrap all around. Now it's time to start connecting things before we move on to the next section. So get out your count repeater and place it close to the trade platform. From your storage sensor, that should be on full or empty by the way, I'm just reminding you again, you'll need to make a couple connections. So just drag this thing and you can use F to create a new segment. I do this so it looks clean and you can understand it. Connect it to the first auto arm. Then you can press F and branch again to connect it to the second auto arm. After that, make sure you connect it to the count repeater as well, and this is what it should look like. If your wiring looks like this, then you're doing it right. And one extra thing, make sure these are connected to the actual auto arms and not to the platform or to anything else. Just take a closer look at it and that's gonna save you a lot of headaches down the road. And this is the most important connection, it's the count repeater. This is the one that makes everything work. So from here you can set whatever count you want to repeat, all the way from 1 to 8. And this is the thing that you will change depending on what resource you want to get from the trade platform. For this video I will get wolframite because it's a pretty odd number. You'll need 6 scrap to get 4 of them. That's why you need a count repeater, so you are able to get any sort of resource that you want with your trade platform. So I'm just going to set this on 6. That's it. This just counts the amount of scrap you have on here, and it's pretty easy. So the storage sensor is connected to this, and then this you'll need to connect to the trade platform. Again, make sure this is connected to the trade platform and not to the platform underneath it or anything else. So again, if your wiring looks like this, you are doing it right. And please don't forget about this extra scrap in here for this auto arm. Before we move to the last section, there's one more thing you need to do after setting this up. This auto arm has to be on when you start, and this one has to be off. If you turn both of them off, nothing will work, obviously. And if you turn both of them on, everything will just stop working after a while. So just have one on and one off. That's how it works. That's what the storage sensor does. It will turn this one off and this one on, and then the reverse, and you'll see everything in just a minute. But here's the final section of this. You'll need an extra auto arm to unload everything from your trade platform. And you'll also have to make sure this reaches into all of the spots on the trade platform, just like that. You could have multiple auto arms here. You can do whatever you want. I'm just using one of them since that will be enough. And this one you can just leave turned on, but make sure you have an item in the selector slot so it doesn't take the scrap away. Because we are getting wolframites today, I have one wolframite in the selector slot of this auto arm, and then I just have some storage at the end here where we will store all the wolframite. You can do whatever you want with this back section here. You can have it go into a printer, you can have it go in your chemistry lab if you're building something else, you can have it go on your rover, or just in a random storage. This last section doesn't really matter, you can do whatever you want with it. So I think we're ready to connect this to power and see it in action. So the first auto arm will grab the scrap, and now the storage sensor is gonna shut this one off and turn this one back on. Now take a quick look at this. We've got 2 scrap on there, right? Now this is empty, so this auto arm turned on, this one off, and look at the count repeater. It counted 2 because we have 2 scrap on here. Now take a closer look at it. Now we've got 4, and look at that, we've got 4 on the count repeater. So this basically counts every time this storage is either full or empty. And because it has 2 slots right here, it will count once full and once empty for every 2 scrap. That's how we can count the scrap. And you can see the trade platform just launches on its own because of the count repeater, and this will now come back with the wolframite that will get unloaded right here. You don't have to do anything else. These auto arms are just on standby until the trade platform comes back, and then they'll resume everything when they have space to put the scrap on the trade platform once this auto arm unloads the wolframite from it. And you can see the count repeater reset to 0 and is now counting again. It counted 1 because this got full once, and it's gonna count 2 when this gets empty. So here's the trade platform again, and we can see it get unloaded and scrap is getting back on it. And now we are just gathering wolframite over here. We've got 4 wolframite so far, and we can just keep this running until we run out of scrap. But what's the point of my whole automation if I'm eventually going to run out of scrap, right? So let's talk about everything you can trade with, including scrap, Astronium, and fault finders. There's a lot of ways you can automate scrap production. Some are pretty easy and some are fully automated. You don't have to worry about anything. And obviously you can pair them with this design for an automated trade platform, so you can get basically unlimited resources of any kind with your trade platform. The first thing and easiest one is using tappers. This is beginner friendly. You'll just need aluminum to craft some tappers, and you can place them on whatever flowers or flora you find. So you can get the organic from the tappers, and in your backpack scroll to glow sticks. If you don't have them unlocked, just unlock them. They are pretty cheap on Bytes, and once you find them you can start crafting. And it would be better if you had multiple tappers so that you could keep getting the organic and crafting the glow sticks in your backpack. Obviously you'll need some power to do this, but that shouldn't be pretty hard. If you already have glow sticks, just add some generators and use some organic that way. Now with the glow sticks in your backpack you can start shredding them, and this will give you scrap. I'm obviously using this extra large shredder that's part of my Astronium scrap farm automation. We'll talk about this in a minute, but you can use whatever shredder you want. Even a medium one is good enough. That one just costs 2 iron, so you will have to go to Glacio, but it's pretty easy to get even at the beginning of the game. And you can see from 4 glow sticks we got 1 scrap, and it got deposited over here. So you're gonna need 4 organic for 1 scrap, which is pretty good considering you're getting organic for free. The only problem with this is you have to be in your backpack crafting them constantly. So you need to be actively clicking on stuff and dragging it into shredders and all of that. So that isn't really automated. We want to take this a step further. So let's talk about some soil automations. So I'm just refilling the soil in here, getting some new canisters back in, and you will have to refill the soil pretty often using one of these soil strategies, but it is worth it. So here's how this works. We've got some soil centrifuges. This is a pretty big scrap farm. You don't have to start off like this. You can just have 1 soil centrifuge and that's enough, but I have 3 right here to make it faster. These are all set to resin and on repeat. You can set them to repeat themselves by just clicking this button right here. This will make constant resin resin from the soil you bring in. You can fill the soil up with your terrain tool, but I suggest using a rover with a drill and paver. Now, once the resin is done, these auto arms will take it and place it on this platform right here, where the small printers are going to use it to craft small canisters. And here we go, you can see it in action. The small canisters then get grabbed and placed into the shredder, and that's how this creates scrap. And as I said earlier, you can obviously pair this with your automated trade platform, and that's exactly what I did on this side. So we have scrap coming in right here, and whenever I want to, I can just enable output on this side, and this auto arm will grab it and put it on here. It's the same story as I showed you earlier, but here I was getting malachite instead of wolframite, so that's why this was set to 8, not 6. So this is how a soil scrap farm works. This is pretty good, but it's still not fully automated. You'll still have to collect the soil, which can get pretty frustrating after a while. So that's why I created metal scrap farms, and these are much more automated. But this is pretty similar to the soil scrap farm. The only difference is it uses an auto extractor to get resources instead of you having to collect the soil. And before you yell at me in the comments, yes, it is infinite. You just need to pick up your auto extractor, place it back down, and it will get reset back up to full. I don't know if it's a bug or a feature, but it works. So this actually gives you infinite scrap. Now, the thing that you need to know is how to automate your rail car. So basically just have a storage on top. You can use whatever storage, but I like the large one because you can just place this. And then you can have a storage sensor. You do not need the proximity repeater. That's just a dumb thing I did. You can just connect the storage sensor to your car. And that's it. This also has to be set to full or empty, so it sends the car from one end to the other. And I used some rail stations that are set to unload on top and load on the bottom. I just stole this from up here. I'll put that back. But you do not have to use the rail stations. You can do it just as good with some rails. It will just not work as fast because this also has storage on the side to unload things and allow the car to go back down faster. But you'll see everything in action once I turn these on. So these will get all of the laterite in here. You can see that the car just left because it got empty. So the storage sensor just sent it back down. Now this is smelting all my laterite into aluminum, which is then put on this platform and crafted into rail junction bundles. The rail junction bundles are then shredded into scrap. So from 2 aluminum you'll get one of these rail junction bundles, and from one of these you'll get 2 scrap. So that's 1 scrap per aluminum. But you can also do this with other metals. Here's where the car gets filled up through some auto arms that take the laterite from the auto extractors. And here's what I was talking about. When this bar gets depleted and your auto extractor stops, just pick it back up and place it back down. It will reset and give you plenty more resources, so you can just keep doing that whenever it stops. And now, once this is full, it will get sent back up to the top. So we just need 1 more laterite and it should go back up. And here it goes. This should be the last laterite, and you can see it automatically goes up to the top where it will unload. And when it's empty, it will come back to the bottom to do everything all over again. And you can see it in action right here. It unloads, these auto arms take everything, and when it's empty, it just goes back down. That's how this farm works, and that's how you get infinite scrap. You can also do this with other materials. I've tried with copper and tungsten, and it works just the same. You just need to craft different items. So for example, work lights or floodlights. You can experiment with this and try it with other resources as well, depending on what planet you're on. Turning metals into scrap is pretty fun, but what if we took it one step further? And this is the huge automation you've seen earlier. Now that you know how to automate your trade platforms with my simple strategy, you can use them to your advantage even for other things than just trading. You can use it for scrap farms. So in this instance, I have an Astronium farm, and whenever I want to get Astronium, I just place some resource canisters right here. When I don't need the Astronium, I let it flow through the whole thing, and I'm using 4 different trade platforms. This is a pretty big farm. I just wanted it to be extremely fast, but you do not have to do this. 1 is enough. So at the trade platform, I have it set to get solid fuel jump jets from Astronium. So 1 Astronium gets me 2 solid fuel jump jets. That means I can just put 4 Astronium in here. That's why the count repeater is set to 4. This is exactly the same setup I showed you earlier with the storage sensor, the 2 auto arms, and everything is exactly the same. And here we unload the solid fuel jump jets and just scrap them. So this is how you turn Astronium into scrap, and this is a really good farm. It works extremely fast, and that's how I got a lot of scrap. Here the end section was for some event I did last year, but this is the main area, and this is how you can turn Astronium into scrap. And the part where you gather the Astronium is exactly the same as for the metals. You have a rail line, you have a car that automatically gets loaded and unloaded. It's exactly the same thing, but it's a little bit harder to build because the auto extractors need to go all the way into the mantle layer where the Astronium is, so your rail line will also be longer. But this might raise another question. How do you automate Astronium? Because as you might know, the trade platform doesn't only trade scrap. It also trades Astronium, and you can use these for a bunch of items, as I showed you earlier when I was trading Astronium for solid fuel jump jets to turn them into scrap. Now the trade platform will also let you trade fault finders. These cannot be automated, you will have to complete the mini games for each of them to activate them, but this will get you some really cool items, so they are really worth it. And if you don't know how to get fault finders, you are probably not far enough in the story, so keep playing the game. You'll have to complete the awakening missions to get that. But let's talk Astronium. There's a lot of items that you can get with Astronium, so this is worthwhile. Now I'm just following my rail line down all the way into the core. And here's a tip from me, you can build a road with your rover if you've got a drill and paver, and this will make it a lot easier for you to build this rail line. It shouldn't take more than 5 minutes once you have this road built. And you will find Astronium on every planet all the way into the mantle layer that's pretty close to the core. And this is where I built everything. I have multiple auto extractors that are gathering Astronium. So the first two are over here, and take a quick look at this. This auto extractor has stopped. The green bar is completely depleted. And look at this, I just pick it back up, throw it back down, and it starts working again. And you can see it starts working again with the bar almost full. The same goes on for this one. I can just place it back down, full bar, and we get more Astronium. So that's why this is actually infinite. Now I have those two auto extractors on that side, but for me that wasn't enough. So I decided to go even further. And this is very modular. You can do whatever you want with it. You can build it as big or as small as you want it. You can see the rail station with the car is exactly the same as what I showed you earlier. It's just a storage sensor connected to your car, and this time it's collecting Astronium. So here are the next two auto extractors. I can just re-enable these as well, and these are gonna get some Astronium. But even 4 auto extractors weren't enough for me, so that's why I got 2 more. And here are my final 2 auto extractors, making it a total of 6 auto extractors gathering Astronium from 3 different Astronium nodes in the mantle layer of Glacio. And as I showed you earlier, all of these automations can be integrated with one another, so you can easily put them into your base, and they go together in any configuration. So go wild and design your own perfect base in Astroneer. Now if you want to learn more about trade platforms and everything you can get with them, including all the special items that you can only get with fault finders, I have the perfect video for you. So go watch this next, and I'll see you there. Cheers, Astroneers!